Hi, I'm Marty Nemko. This short story is called The Psychic, um, and it gives you a little, hopefully, insight into how, quote, psychics read you. Angela never thought her husband would leave her, but he did. Frantic, she sought advice from her mother, friends, and from a psychic. Angela approached the neon sign that read Psychic, adorned by a crescent moon. She rang the bell and was buzzed into a room with chairs covered with a white leopard design fabric, surrounding a round table with a tablecloth that extended to the floor. The walls bore velvet paintings, for example, of an eye in a triangle surrounded by stars. A velveteen curtain separated the reading room from what was behind. Soft New Age music completed the ambiance. A minute passed, and then Teresa, the psychic, made her clients wait so that she wouldn't appear too eager and to build clients' anticipation. And finally, from behind the curtain, a grandmotherly woman in a peasant blouse and skirt emerged. Welcome, my child. I am Teresa. I am glad you sought out an intuitive. We all have the gift. I've simply practiced for a long time. I'm not 100% right, but I can usually help. That makes the client feel like she's not getting hyped and also gives her an out when she makes an error. Tell me, what is troubling you? Angela said, You knew I had a problem? Well, of course, fact is, almost all first-time visitors to a psychic have a problem. Of course, my child, replied Teresa. Oh, well, my husband Joe has left me, and I want to know if he'll be coming back. Teresa noted that the question's wording suggests she wants him back. Confirming that, from her peripheral vision, Teresa noticed that Angela still wore her wedding ring. Teresa tucked that information away for later use. Next, Teresa used other techniques to gather information and establish credibility. She turned down the lights, lighted incense, and intoned, Angela, please close your eyes and concentrate on you, on Joe, and on your marriage. When Angela closed her eyes, Teresa looked her up and down and noted that her appearance was fastidious. After 30 seconds, Teresa asked Angela to open her eyes. That way, Angela could see Teresa's efforts to, quote, connect with the spirits. Teresa then closed her eyes, scrunched up her face, looked into the dark crystal ball on the table. Its electric cord was hidden under the ball and dropped through a hole in the table, connected to a foot-controlled dimmer slider. After caressing the ball and making noises of concentration for a suitable amount of time, Teresa slowly pushed the dimmer switch so the crystal ball illuminated, revealing a hazy, face-obfuscated image of two children, two adults, and two old people. You see, somewhere in that collection, the client's going to see a, quote, connection. After a long 30 seconds, Teresa sighed as if exhausted from the ordeal. That helped make Angela believe that Teresa was doing something spiritual, and that the exhausted face suggested bad news was coming. And so, when Teresa then gently smiled, Angela felt relieved. Teresa began, My dear, I have good news for you. I see Joe returning and staying with you, but you will need to make some changes. Now, Teresa is going to only propose modest changes to keep Angela feeling good about herself and in turn about Teresa. Teresa continued, It's a little hazy. That buys her a little wiggle room. But I wonder, more wiggle room, if Joe is frustrated with your perfectionism, which of course Teresa inferred both from Angela's appearance and that most men aren't as fastidious. If Angela said no in a tentative way, then Teresa would blame her error on Angela. Well, perhaps that's part of the problem, Angela. You are insensitive to Joe's frustrations with you. Or if Teresa says that Angela was secure in dismissing perfectionism as a reason that Joe left, Teresa still wouldn't apologize. She would immediately distract Angela by asking a question that required her to think. For example, now I want you to think hard about a time you sensed Joe was most unhappy with you. But in this case, Teresa guessed right, and Angela said, You're right. Every time we go out together, he's frustrated how long it takes me to get ready. Teresa tries to get Angela to provide more information without it casting Teresa's psychic powers into question. So Teresa again gives herself wiggle room with this introduction, especially in a first session, pretending. That portends the need for more sessions, of course. Especially in a first session, the messages can be vague, so you may need to help me a little. Wishing to make the reading as useful as possible, Angela, of course, agreed to help. Teresa continued, "There is an important person involved in your problem," see how vague she's being, "whose name," and notice she didn't mention whether it's first or last name to double her chances, "begins with an S, or is it a C? Odds are Teresa knows someone, whether a relative or paramour, with the first name, last name, or nickname that starts with S or C." Angela struggles to come up with a name and finally has to settle on, "Well, my grandfather is Sam." Teresa responds, "Yes, that's it. How could Grandpa Sam be impacting all of this?" Teresa closes her eyes, pretending to be invoking the spirits again, but her real purpose is to allow silence that might push Angela to reveal something. Bingo! Angela says, "Well, my husband has visited Grandpa a couple of times recently." Teresa says with certitude, "Angela, you must visit Grandpa Sam. A clue will be revealed there." On the off chance that Angela knew no one whose first or last name began with an S or a C, Teresa would have said, "It's someone your husband knows, but you don't. Let's go in a different direction." Or she might try, "I'm going to say the letters of the alphabet. The name will come clear. Now look me in the eye." When Teresa reaches a significant person's first letter, Angela's pupils will likely dilate or contract. Angela's answers and nonverbal cues confirm or refute Teresa's hypothesis about whether Angela wants him back. But there's still time left in the session, so Teresa did more to elicit information or confirmation. Teresa looked into her crystal ball and says, "I see a piece of jewelry given to you by a relative. Have any idea what relevance that might have?" Psychics know that most women have at least one piece of jewelry with emotional value. As it happened, Angela said no. So Teresa tried another high-yield example that appears to be specific to Angela, but is widely applicable. "Let me try again. I see an old memento from childhood, a book, a toy, something like that." Amazed, Angela said, "I've been sleeping with my childhood doll since Joe left." This added to Teresa's credibility and also created an opening for Teresa to extract yet more information from Angela without appearing to do so. "So, Angela, what significance might that doll have?" Angela said, "Well, maybe it reflects my desire for the playfulness of childhood." Teresa, using just plain common sense, asked, "Is it possible that adding more playfulness to your relationship with Joe might resurrect it?" Angela said, "Maybe." Next, Teresa dealt tarot cards in a ritualized way until a card came up that lent itself to a story that would support what Angela wants to hear. Teresa says, "Good! The High Priestess card, the Shekinah. That signals the inner divine within a woman. This is the clearest signal yet, that your heart remains with Joe and his with yours. If the love within either of you were dead, this card would not have emerged." There was still time left in the half hour, so Teresa quote-unquote read Angela's palm, looking for two long crossing lines. Another clear sign he's coming back. In fact, most people have two long crossing lines. At the 28-minute mark, Teresa asked, "Do you want to summarize what you've learned here?" Asking Angela to summarize builds Angela's investment in the learning and in Teresa, the psychic, and may yield more information for Teresa to use in a subsequent session. Angela summarized, "You're confident that Joe is coming back, but that I'll need to work on my perfectionism, especially when it affects Joe, and perhaps be more playful with him, and that I should see Grandpa Sam to perhaps learn other clues." Then Teresa intoned magisterially, "Very good." See, everybody likes to be affirmed. "We are off to a good start." That's more intimation that additional sessions will be required. Teresa then waited in hopes that Angela would ask to schedule another session, but she didn't. So Teresa said in her authoritative voice, "I want you to meditate on what you've learned tonight, letting it all ferment. And then we will get together, not should get together, she says, we will get together tomorrow to move you forward. Who could be against moving forward? If Angela had responded enthusiastically, Teresa would have upsold her, you need a 1-hour intensive. But Angela just said okay, so Teresa deferred the upsell until the next session. Perhaps Teresa could even convince Angela to go for the weekend retreat that we reserve for only our special clients. Angela left skeptical, but somehow glad she saw the psychic, especially since Teresa predicted that she and Joe would get back together. The takeaway? When we're vulnerable, we're subject to being taken advantage of. It's not just Teresa's fee I'm concerned about. It's her ill-founded advice, especially in tough times. We need to rely on people we can trust, our respected relatives and friends, perhaps most of all, the wise man or woman within ourselves. Ask yourself, what would my best self do now? Thanks for watching. I'm Marty Nemko.